Hey, it's Hugo over at Built Fab. Got a 2001 Oldsmobile Alero. Yes, an Oldsmobile Alero. The customer has had this engine built to 636 wheel horsepower. But he's had some fabrication done by other shops, and he wasn't happy with what he was looking at under the hood. He wanted a little bit more tidier. So right now we've been relocating the dipstick tube, kind of refabbed it, because it used to just stick over here in the way, so he couldn't put on any intake tube. So right now we're just refabricating using some of his original fabbed equipment and some new hardware. We're just trying to make it tighter and lower to go into the intercooler. So what we've been doing is kind of just cutting, chopping, rebuilding, twisting a little bit different orientation. I took the wires that were running right here, I put them to the back bottom side of the brake master cylinder, just in front of the booster, right underneath, to allow a little bit larger cavity. So now, trying to make this one piece because that is making a bunch of boost. Originally, before, it was hitting this booster canister, it was also hitting this master cylinder. And by kind of cutting and moving and just adding a few extra pieces of material, we're able to get it away. It's going to be a tight tolerance, but it was hitting before. So the object is to not have it touch anything. It's going to be floating on its silicone couplers on the charge tube side and right out the outlet of the turbine. So now that we're pretty happy with the orientation and the way this charge tube's working, what I like to do is I put usually witness marks like this, which helps when you're trying to orient it when you tack weld it on the bench. We're basically getting to the last one we have to tack weld on the bench. You can weld on the car, but I do like to disconnect the battery, and it's a little bit hidden right now. He's got a sound system, so I'd rather take it off the car. I'm gonna weld it on the bench anyways, because you don't want to weld too much underneath the hood. There's a lot of flammable materials underneath here. So I'm gonna get this set up one last time. I'll put a pair of witness marks. And then when I remove it from the couplers, I'm now going to be able to bring it to the bench and realize that's my alignment. It may not be perfect, but it'll be a lot better than trying to drag the entire welder over here, welding underneath the hood, which I don't like to do, unless it's a bare bones car that's been brought down to where it's just a shell and you're doing a lot of heavy fabrication. We got the piece tacked up. We're going to test fit it one more time just to double check and everything's going to be copacetic going in. We'll even clamp it to see if anything gets bound between the coupler off the turbine and the coupler going into the intercooler. So if everything checks out, I'll clean everything with a wire wheel one more time. I have a special wire brush just for aluminum. You want to keep aluminum and stainless or steel, all three in separate wire brushes. You don't want to cross-contaminate, because you will get rust on your aluminum if you start using carbon steel on your aluminum. But that's basic knowledge for a lot of people that do aluminum welding. A lot of this is powder coat or ceramic coating on here. It is a little harder to weld once it's been on there, so just do your best to clean it up. He's going to run this on the dyno one more time, and then he's going to probably have the sandblasted and recoated. So after the last tack, test fit it one more time. It doesn't seem to be hitting anything at all. It's going to be floating. So when we put clamps on here, when we put clamps on there, everything's going to be nice and clear. This intake tube is going to have to get narrow, but there's really literally no other way without not even having a filter. Like right now there's just a screen, and that's not good for a turbo. So we are going to do an intake tube, trying to put the filter here. We have a large one, and we're just going to do the best I can. At least there'll be some air duct going there, preventing dirty, saturated air from going into the nice big turbo. So we're going to pull this off one more time. We're going to weld everything up, cool it off, and then reinstall it, put the clamps on it, and and then move on to the intake tube, and we'll put on the cold side tube from the intercooler inlet tube to the intake. No fabrication needed on that one. That one's good to go. So, okay. Hey, welcome back to Built Fab. After we put the witness marks on, I went and welded up this charge tube, reinstalled it. Basically, with some of the coating on the tubing, it welded actually pretty good. What I like to do is I take a cookie wheel or an abrasive wheel on a 3-inch or an 1.5-inch grinder, remove all of the coating, checked everything for fitment. It is tight in here, but it doesn't touch anything solid. Everything else is either a hose or a wiring connector. So nothing hits, no metal contact like it was hitting before here. It was hitting the diaphragm of the master cylinder. Customer's been by, checked it out, happy with it. We cannot fit an air intake tube currently right now. So now we're gonna have to reassess. We're probably gonna end up refabbing this cold side charge tube. We're gonna try to bring it over here, move the coil packs, bring this in straight, and take this blow off valve, and we're gonna have to flip it 180. Because right now, the size of the air intake filter it's not fitting. So we don't want to reduce the size of the air filter at all. Obviously, something that makes even over 400 horsepower, you want something this size, and this is to the wheels at 636. So we need this air filter to filter this much horsepower. So we're going to reassess all of this tubing right here. We're just running out of space. So currently right now we're just going to leave the car like it is. We might put on a mushroom filter just for now for him to do some rolling, street racing. But other than that, right now we're on to doing the exhaust system, and then from there we're going to actually take this engine and swap it to an entire rust-free car from Arizona. This is a Michigan car. I don't know if you can see, there's a lot of rust. There's actually no rocker panels on this car, so tune in for that later, probably next year. We're going to actually do an entire engine swap, taking this engine out, putting it into a rust-free car. We're going to do a minor roll cage. We're going to add strut bars up here, custom made. We're going to do a fuel cell. Yes, we're going to keep the strut towers. We're actually going to make aftermarket strut towers that use adjustable KW struts up front, KW struts in the rear. So